Welcome back, everyone. Happy Halloween. And as promised, here is your Joe Biden video. This is the Joe Biden's Path to Victory video. In the last video, we covered Donald Trump and how he could squeeze out another 270 win. In the 2016 election, it was an electoral landslide. He doesn't have to match it perfectly, but he does need to reach 270 in order to be reelected. And now we're going to be looking at Biden's paths to victory. As promised in the last video, I wore red for Republican for Trump. In this video, I'm doing blue for Biden for Democrat, as impartial and non-biased as possible, just to show you I'm not taking sides. If you haven't seen the Trump video yet, his paths to victory, that link will be down below in the description. You can watch that video after watching this one. You don't necessarily have to watch them in order. Doesn't really matter which video you watch first. But now we're just going to be solely looking at Biden. We're going to be looking at how he could squeeze out 270. Could it be a landslide? Could he just barely eke out 270? Well, let's take a look now. We're going to be playing around with this interactive map. So when it came to Trump in the last video, we basically explained that he would have to match the 2016 map as best as possible, as he won a few of these states, such as Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, by very, very slim margins. Only less than a percentage point, 1 point something, 2%, very, very slim margins. Biden, all he would have to do is flip a couple states, nothing too drastic. He actually has more paths to victory than Trump if you really look at it. So once again, here's the 2016 map, Trump versus Clinton, and the results, spoiler alert, Trump did win. He got 306 to 232. It is worth noting, though, that there are faithless electors, right? So because of our electoral college system, when the delegates then go to pledge their votes, they might be faithless and actually go against what they are pledged and elected to do. So there were a couple of those scenarios in 2016, but everyone was thinking that there's going to be so many faithless electors against Trump, they're not going to let him in. He's going to get less than 270 because there's going to be so many faithless electors, and they're going to go the other way for Clinton. In fact, it was found that Clinton actually got more faithless electors than Trump. There were also a few write-ins as well. You just never know what's going to happen, and so it did end up being a Trump victory, though, spoiler alert. Let's go to the map now and look at what Biden can do here. So Biden, he would of course have to pick up the obvious necessary Democratic states, right? He'd have to get the states such as New York, California, the Oregons, the Washingtons. He'd have to get all down here, the Massachusetts, the Rhode Island, the Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC. He would have to get all those states, the normal Democratic strongholds, Illinois, right? Probably Colorado. Couldn't really win without Colorado. New Mexico he would need as well. You don't necessarily need Hawaii. It's not a must, but it would definitely help him just lock in the states that the Democrats need to win. He's leading vastly with a commanding lead in all of those polls, the Democratic strongholds. We know he's going to win them. That's guaranteed 100%. I bet a lot of money on it. But let's take a look now at the battlegrounds. So what could Biden do here? Well, let's just take a look at a path where he would just have to flip one state. Let's just look at where Biden could win, which is flipping one state. And that would be the state of Texas, which is always a Republican stronghold, but now it's in play. Now Texas might be considered a swing state in future elections and specifically this election. It could be considered a battleground. You look at some of the polls, Biden's actually leading by a point or two. And Texas, just so you understand, Texas, they've crossed the amount of voters that they did in 2016 with early voting. So more people have already voted early in Texas than the entire total did in 2016. So that could mean a very strong Latino and Latina influence. You have definitely Hispanic influence there. But that could also mean that all the Trump supporters come out on election day and eat up all those votes and could possibly lock in the Trump victory. Trump needs Texas to win. It would be an absolute disaster if he loses Texas. But if Biden could squeeze it out, and it was very close, remember that classic Ted Cruz versus Beto O'Rourke, remember that race for the Senate? Beto lost by just a very slim margin, was Ted Cruz reelected to the Senate. Very slim. Texas is in play. I would declare it in play. I don't think it was as in play as 2016. I think 2020, it's definitely more in play than it was in 2016. You have a massive turnout with the election right now, just in early voting. So what happens? What happens if you turn Texas blue? There you go. 270 to 268. Trump loses by 2 electoral votes. Biden would get it. 270 exactly on the nose. And there you go. He wins the election just by flipping that one state, even if you were to replicate the map perfectly. It probably won't look like this. It probably won't look like this. It will look a lot different, I think. So let's just say Biden can't get Texas. Let's say he can't get it. But he is able to probably carry a state like Pennsylvania, where he's doing right now very well. I'm going to say he's going to take Wisconsin. I would say that's a very sure bet. He's doing much better in Wisconsin than Michigan, but he's still at 262. Trump would still win even if Biden were to take Pennsylvania and Michigan. Well, he would have to get either a Michigan in order to win, but that would mean he would have to take back the entire blue wall. He would have to take all 3 states back, which is going to be tough. Or he could take North Carolina instead if he does not get Michigan, and that would lead him to victory, 277. But there's so many more paths, so let's go back. And now let's say Biden could take Ohio. He could take an Ohio. Maybe he can grab Florida. There's polls, a couple of them showing with Biden up and Trump up, depending on what you look at. But Trump would need Florida. It would be really a disaster because that's 29 electoral votes. That's a lot. That's just as much as in New York. So if Biden took Florida, there you go. So if he could take Ohio and Florida, that would be 279 right there. That's another path. Let's look at another path. So let's say Biden could take in Iowa, but Trump is leading in Iowa, probably win Iowa. And then Biden takes also, let's say, a Georgia, where he has a chance. He's still at 254. He would need just 1 or 2 more states. Let's say he could take back one of these states in the blue wall, right to victory. Not with Wisconsin, though. He would have to be something like a Michigan there. And now he's at 270, 268, the same exact results as when we did Texas. So if he could take it back Michigan, he could take it back Georgia, and he could flip Iowa. That would be a victory right there for Biden. Let's change it back. Let's say he does take Pennsylvania, which would be very helpful. A lot of people are saying that the election really hinges on Pennsylvania, that whoever wins Pennsylvania will ultimately win the presidency. So that would definitely be a good indicator right there if he could take back Pennsylvania. And let's say he could take a North Carolina, which is very possible. Now he just needs 3 more. 3 more. Well, he already has a New Hampshire. He already has a Vermont. Maybe he could flip a district in Maine. He could take a smaller state like in Iowa or a West Virginia, but Trump is leading in West Virginia. So he would need 1 more state. So it would actually be a little bit tough to get one of these southern strongholds back from the Republicans. If he were to take a North Carolina and a Pennsylvania, he would still need 1 more state. So let's say he gets, again, one of the blue walls. He maintains Minnesota, but he could take back Michigan, and that would be a 283 decisive victory right there. It's tight. It's tight. There's no way to look at it any other way. It is definitely a tight race. There are going to be a lot of troubles getting these states back to Republicans or getting back to Democrats, even in the down ballot races, even in the Senate and smaller congressional races. It is a tight race. It is a narrow race. No one could truly predict what's going to happen. Now, let's say by any chance that Biden actually loses Minnesota. Trump is eyeing Minnesota. That's South Dakota. Let's say Minnesota. Well, he would need 222. Would Texas still do it? Would that still bring him? No. Even if he would have flipped Texas but lose Minnesota, he'd still only be at 260. But that would be betting that Trump takes the entire blue wall here of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. You'd have to say 1 has to go to Biden. So if you were to just say Wisconsin, that would also be path 270 to 268 once more. So there you go. We're back there at that 2 electoral lead. That's how tight this race could truly be. We really, really don't know. Let's change Minnesota back to blue. Now we're back to the original 2016 results. Let's say there's a path that Biden actually gives up Nevada. Trump campaign is eyeing Nevada. They think they have a chance there. Now we're at 226, 312. If Biden could take Pennsylvania, 246, we're getting slightly closer, and he would take in North Carolina, 261. He still doesn't have it. He would need 9 more. Let's say he could take a Wisconsin. That would bring him over just by 1, 271 to 267. And those are really all the paths. There's really nothing else that Biden could do. He's not going to be able to take all these stronghold Midwestern states. He has shots in these battlegrounds, but some of them, like in Iowa or Ohio, Trump is doing pretty well. He does have a chance, and he'll probably lock in Ohio and in Iowa. It's really going to come down to the blue wall up here of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. It's going to hinge on Florida. It's going to hinge on North Carolina. Texas, I'm going to say, will lean Trump. It's possible he could flip it, but it would be very, very shocking. That would be a shocker on election night. And just so you understand, what's going to happen is a lot of these votes are not going to be counted until days after the election. So it will actually look like that a candidate is leading momentarily or on election night, we think we have a winner, when in fact the other candidate's actually leaning because they have to count up all the mail-in ballots and all the absentee ballots. It's going to take a while to count all the votes, and remember, Trump won some of these states in very slim margins. There's so much room for error, and it could really go either way. There's no way no one on this planet could truly predict who is going to win. Each candidate, though, if you look at it, as we just did with our analysis of all the states, they really do both have a fair shot. I think it is really equal. I think it's not going to be a great landslide. I think this is going to be a lot more of a tighter race than 2016. Larger voter turnout, probably. We don't know for a fact yet, but I do think there will be a larger voter turnout. A lot of people sat out the last election or even voted third party, and we don't have so much of an independent third party candidate this year. No one knows Joe Jorgensen. They don't know Howie Hawkins, right? Gary Johnson was a more prominent third party candidate back in 2016, and we don't really have that this year. It could be a Biden blowout. Biden could totally blow Trump out of the water and totally defeat him and totally vanquish him by getting all the states that Trump took. Biden could take him back. Remember, he's more likable and more trustworthy, and he's seen as a better overall candidate. He has better favorability than Clinton. A lot of the Clinton voters who voted for Obama actually switched to Trump, and Biden can take some of those Obama-Trump voters back and bring them back to his side. So those are Biden's paths to victory. We do have another video covering the election on Tuesday morning in the wee hours of the morning. Stay tuned. You are going to want to be subscribed for that so you don't miss a beat. We're going to be covering the election in great detail, my thoughts, my opinions, no sugarcoating, no bias whatsoever, but I will definitely explain the facts and look at both candidates and scrutinize them. So if you did enjoy this video, give it a big thumbs up, smash the like button. If you do like this election coverage, tell me down below in the comments. And also, who do you think is going to win, Trump or Biden? Let us know down below. And if you want to see more videos on my channel, I do post videos now every single solitary day. Be sure they are subscribed, hit that big red button. Also hit that notification bell as well. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Happy Halloween.